Nigeria has a new president. Muhammadu Buhari was sworn into office earlier today amid celebrations from several parts of Nigeria. However, he now has the responsibility of making the hopes, the aspirations and the ideals of over 170 million people a reality. How will he do that? How, more importantly, will he actually be able to pay for all the promises that were made on the campaign trail? We'll be live in Lagos looking at those details right here on Global Business Africa. Welcome to the program. I'm Ramanyang. Here's what's coming up. Nigeria's Adesina Akinomi takes over as Africa's the president of the AfDB, and we'll be telling you why Guinea's young people are opting for the rural areas. Now, Nigeria's former military ruler, Muhammadu Buhari, was sworn in as president on Friday at a ceremony in the federal capital, Abuja. He takes over, this time as a democratically elected civilian head of state from Goodluck Jonathan, in Nigeria's first ever democratic transfer of power. His electoral victory has inspired hope for a new sense of direction and purpose after 5 years of scandal and policy drift under the outgoing president. Buhari has already pledged to get tough on corruption, and he says he will spare absolutely no effort in defeating Boko Haram. Even though his roots are not in economics, but rather the military, Buhari did serve as the head of the Petroleum Trust Fund under Sani Abacha, and that to some extent will give him an insight into the murky world of Nigeria's crude oil industry. Celebrations have been ongoing right across Nigeria as citizens welcomed the first ever democratic transfer of power in the country's history. As soon as Mr. Buhari was sworn in, thousands at the Eagles Square rose to their feet, danced and chanted the new president's name. Many now hope that the former military ruler will bring some sense of order and efficiency to the nation of 170 million plus after 5 years marred by corruption scandals and a Boko Haram insurgency that has seen thousands killed so far.
I feel very happy for this inauguration that today a great man in the Nigerian history will emerge as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I am very, very happy.
Because I feel so elated that Nigeria has a new opportunity, a new beginning, a great new beginning with an honest man who is serious and focused and disciplined.
Oh, wonderful. That's a great day. A really great day for Nigeria, a really great day for everyone, and also a day of a new era, a new dawn, and a new change. And we've been waiting for this, and I feel like break dancing. You can see me, I feel like, kicking it.
You know, the easy part about being a politician is making the promises. Implementing them, however, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were, with the help of Olusegun Akanji. He's an economic analyst. He's live in Lagos for us right now. Mr. Akanji, thank you very much for your time. An Afrobarometer survey in December and January identified unemployment, a lack of access to reliable power, and poverty as the top 3 concerns. What are Mr. Buhari's solutions to those 3 problems? Right, then it does seem we're having a problem with that particular link. We do apologize for that. Let's head over to the question, of course, of the African Development Bank. The country's outgoing agriculture minister, this of course is still related to Nigeria, Mr. Akinomi Adesina, is now the 8th president of the African Development Bank. He got 58% of the votes cast in the 6th and final round of voting at the AfDB's annual meeting in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. To get there, however, he had to beat 8 other candidates in the race to replace Donald Kaberuka, who steps down in August after a decade in charge. The bank, of course, is one of the continent's largest lending institutions. In the last 10 years, it spent over $20 billion on infrastructure alone, billions more on private sector lending. As Agriculture Minister in Nigeria, Mr. Adesina worked on revitalizing the country's agricultural sector after decades of neglect following Nigeria's discovery of oil in the 1950s. He's been praised for bringing more transparency to fertilizer subsidies, a program riddled with corruption in the past.
I will be a responsible president. I will be a hardworking president. I will be a focused president. And I will be a president that will work with you together in a cooperative manner to build on the excellent work that President Kaberuka has already left us. Left a tremendous legacy. And I will be the president of all. The president of those that voted for me and those that didn't vote for me, but we are here. And I know that Africa's future is huge, and I know that together as partners, we can even make Africa to be the pride of the world in terms of having a lot of inclusive growth. The shareholders of the bank, the governors of the bank, the people of Africa that have given me this responsibility. I would like you to know that by the special grace of God and with your support, I will not let you down.
And of course, if you want to get a sense of what exactly he's going to focus on as the AfDB president, we had an interview with him right here in Global Business Africa. Check it out on youtube.com/CCTV Africa. Now, still on the African Development Bank, the outgoing president, Donald Kaberuka, says the incoming president, Akinwumi Adesina, has his work cut out for him, especially as African economies look to develop their manufacturing sector. Kaberuka says Adesina's background in agriculture could help the continent diversify from its overdependence on mineral revenue.
Africa keeps changing. The new president will be here for 10 years, hopefully. So who knows what will happen in 10 years? Africa is moving on. So they'll have to adapt the bank to the situation then. But for now, the bank has got a 10-year strategy. So I think what is important is to come, take a look at that strategy. What is it that you need to fine-tune, to change? What are the new priorities, and so on. But either way, not simply for the bank, for all our countries, all of them. You know, dealing with inequalities, inclusion, job creation is what the challenge will be. And I think and expect that the new president, who is an agricultural expert, a very good one at that, can give us an impetus into how you actually transform an economy, you add value by building one of its largest bases, which is agriculture and livestock. But on balance, I think Africa's priorities are known. So the bank, the priorities of the bank are those of the countries. And in the context of an emerging global economy, and we don't know, frankly, where the global economy is going.
Now, to say, of course, that Dr. Adesina has big shoes to fill will be quite the understatement. Let's get back to our lead story, however, Nigeria. A historical transition of power from one civilian president to another. But making promises is one thing, fulfilling them is a completely different story. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff with the help of Olusegun Akanji. He's an economic analyst. He's live in Lagos right now, hopefully without any sound problems on that link. Mr. Akanji, thank you for your time. An Afrobarometer study done way back in December and January identified unemployment, a lack of power and poverty as the three topmost concerns for Nigerian citizens. What is Mr. Buhari's plan to solve those issues?
Right. Thank you very much. Those three challenges raised become an enduring issue in Nigeria, raising unemployment, dealing with issues of unemployment, issues of poverty and power. They've consistently been enduring challenge. I think the immediate response is for the government to prioritize and focus on sectors that would enhance the lifestyle of Nigerians as well as strengthen economic indicators. And I think that the immediate focus would be to quickly establish an engagement with the private sector. That engagement would ensure that those areas or sectors that are downsizing will quickly get stabilized and re-engage people into employment. Once you can widen the base of employment, you begin to have situation of peace. And you know that peace is the foundation of development in any country or in any sphere of the world. So once you have that, Nigerians become patient and allow the government to settle in to work on those sectors that would widen the base of employment creation, like agriculture, like even power in itself. So I think that's the focus of the government. And I think the presidential speech this morning at the inauguration is quite elicits some form of hope that the government seems to know what to do, trying to establish some form of aggression towards establishing peace in the country. Indeed. Which is very important.
Once you have peace, let's also focus on the question of agriculture, Mr. Akanji. We can't talk about solving unemployment in Nigeria without talking about agriculture. Dr. Adesina did quite a bit of interesting work on that field. Should we expect Mr. Buhari to continue with those policies or to introduce a different set altogether?
I think it would just be wise to build on the base that has been set by the outgone Minister of Agriculture. I think the part that needs to be worked on now immediately is to shift agriculture from just the focus of production to a much more sustainable market formation agenda. And making it worthwhile for banks and other private sector to finance agriculture, and beyond that is a full-scale market development system, such that you make it easy for Nigerians, particularly farmers, to engage in a structured form and talk about, for example, ethnic food financing. All over the world, you have Nigerians all over the world who are looking for Nigerian food all the time. But if you come back home, this food, the pattern of preparing and industrializing this product is not there. So I do expect that we need to transit to value addition, moving away from just production, so that we can actually create wealth in agriculture. Indeed. And for farmers as well, so that more people will focus on that. I think they'll be building on this.
Right. Let's talk about fuel subsidies. Very contentious issue inside and outside Nigeria. Do you expect them to be gradually phased out over the next 4 to 5 years?
I think this is something that requires an immediate attention. I do not think it should be something we have to do over 4 to 5 years. It's something we need to address within the first year of this government sitting. And I mean, the popular view at this point, who is benefiting? The question is, who is benefiting from the subsidy? I do not think it's getting to the bottom of the pyramid where the government intended it for. So I think the immediate response would be to quickly determine the future of subsidy, and I think popular opinion would be to just take it out immediately.
Indeed. What about energy? I mean, the APC emphasized the expansion of generation capacity to be a strong focus over the next 4 years, with a target figure of about 20 gigawatts of generation capacity. What's your assessment of their target? Is it economically feasible, or is it just a whole bunch of hot air?
Well, there are two sides of the coin. It's economically, it is feasible because once you are opening the door of the entire energy value chain to private sector, there is the population that will purchase power. It's about infrastructure renewal. So, and you will need a lot of private sector engagement, both locally and internationally, to bring in investment into that sector. The outgone administration already has laid the foundation for that robust opportunity to recreate the power sector. So what we then need at this point is to be able to open the door wider for international investors as well as local investors that would facilitate infrastructure renewal, as well as ensure that people generally pay for power. Because in Nigeria, you still have some areas where people use power almost free because they just get connected by some means which are not structured. And so you need to be able to capture everybody into power usage system, and also ensure that you cluster power distribution. You cluster the distribution of power into segments that are smaller, so that the cost of deployment is manageable, and different investors can take a cluster and create and generate power for that location, and so that people can generally be able to access power. So I think a speed to the market that is very important at this time.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being. As always, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Olusegun Akanji. He's an economist, an economic analyst who was live for us, of course, in Lagos, Nigeria. Quick run to the markets here for you. Another week of disappointing numbers from the Kenyan bourse. Fairly strong set of red numbers right across the board. Nigeria, obviously, the market wasn't trading today. Inauguration taking place over there. Egypt, being a Friday, they don't trade. but elsewhere a clean set of red numbers. In Nairobi, however, a fairly interesting set of developments here. The NSE 20 actually closed in the red, but the all-share index, that did something a little different. It actually was up by about 2/3 in trading today. Now, some in the market are looking at it and saying that that bifurcation suggests that this bear run we've seen over the last couple of trading sessions in East Africa might be coming to an end. Now, there's plenty more news, views and analysis from right across Africa coming your way shortly. We're back in 30. See you then.
Effects of the austerity measures are evident and were expected. Egyptians, however, seem to be patient about it. But El-Sisi told government he wants to control the prices promptly before people's patience runs out.
Welcome back to the program. Let's move on to East Africa, specifically Kenya's middle class. It's continuing to grow year upon year, and demand for consumer goods is growing in tandem. Now, the largest shopping mall in the region has just opened up for business in Nairobi. It adds to the nation's rapidly expanding retail sector. However, as Andrew Thompson reports, with a raft of new developments in the pipeline, Garden City is not going to be the biggest player on the pitch for very long.
33,000 square metres of freshly laid retail space. These eager shoppers streaming into the new Garden City Mall are fervently exploring the 120 local and international brands on offer. Built in the growth corridor on the outskirts of Nairobi off the new Thika Highway, the mall, which is still receiving its finishing touches, aims to target the area's growing number of middle-class residents.
A lot of people within the whole of Thika Road, even outskirts past of Thika Road, this will be the convenience place for them to shop at.
Backed by London-based private equity firm Actis, the $250 million development is set to expand even further, increasing to 50,000 square metres. Meaning these shoppers will have even more retail outlets in which to spend their growing amounts of disposable income. The opening heralds a major push by South African retailing giant Massmart Holdings into the Kenyan market, with its discount store Game the first to open in East Africa's largest national economy. The mall's operators believe there is significant market share in the region to fuel strong sales for its retailers.
Definitely there is room for a lot more, because we are at a phase where retail is just growing in Kenya. And there's demand for retail.
However, the opening has not been welcomed by all. An international media outlet has reported that $25 million meant to alleviate poverty was invested in the project, part of many similar projects across Africa, Latin America and Asia. But the British aid organisation responsible, CDC, says the investments will create thousands of jobs for poor people in construction and service. Many local Kenyans agree.
This translates to more employment, I guess. Yeah, so many people, I'm seeing so many people have gotten jobs. So I guess it takes care of all aspects. Yeah, more employment for people, that's good enough.
And it looks like Kenya's retail sector will continue to stimulate major new employment opportunities in the future, with a new, even larger mall being constructed in the affluent Nairobi suburb of Runda.
Later this year, Kenyan investment group Centum will open what's billed to be the largest mall in East Africa, stepping up competition in this increasingly crowded sector. Andrew Thompson, CCTV, Nairobi, Kenya.
Let's talk about Zimbabwe's tobacco industry. It's grown at an exponential rate in recent years, with a record number of farmers coming into the market, producing record output last season. That said, beyond the obvious health costs that this industry imposes, there's an environmental one that rarely gets attention. Farai Makutuya filed this report on how industry players are tackling that problem.
About 130 million kilograms have already been sold this year. Output will fall short of the record 210 million kilograms last year, but it's still an impressive showing, though the surge in tobacco production has come at a cost. Thousands of tobacco growers in Mount Darwin district bring their tobacco to these communal barns for curing. It takes tons and tons of firewood to fire them up, which is directly driving up deforestation, which is reaching unsustainable levels. Mount Darwin in Mashonaland Central Province is one of the top 5 tobacco growing areas in the country. Its forests are being rapidly depleted.
When I took over this farm in 2002, that whole ridge had thick cover. People were even scared to venture there, but now it's bare. The former white farmers had resorted to using charcoal for curing, but when we started out in tobacco, we didn't have the funds to buy charcoal, so we had to cut down trees.
He is one of 53 farmers that has partnered with Sustainable Afforestation Association to set up tree plantations that will supply wood for curing without having to destroy more natural forests. The association, a joint initiative by tobacco industry players and government, was set up in 2013 to mitigate the impact of the deforestation.
The first season, 2014, January, February, March, we established 600 hectares. The past season, 2014-2015, we expanded the project to target 3,300 hectares. And by end of March, we had achieved 3,450 hectares. So right now we've got about 4,000 hectares on the ground. Our objective is to make sure that we establish these plantations on an annual target of 5,000 hectares for the next 7 years.
Witnessing firsthand the impact of the deforestation and realizing their continued livelihood from tobacco is dependent on such projects, local communities have zestfully plunged in, availing their land and participating in the planting of and tending to of the trees.
We want to plant more trees. We have already secured more land from the traditional leaders if the seedlings are available.
And they don't necessarily have to wait long to start seeing the benefits.
While they are waiting, we have put in some other initiatives. They can grow some agricultural crops in between. They can also, once it starts closing in, they can also establish some beehives and go into beekeeping and honey production while waiting for these 7 years for the trees to mature.
While the golden leaf has outstripped other crops here, there have always been questions about its sustainability. Now, it seems there could be an answer. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Mount Darwin, Zimbabwe.
Now, Egypt is finalizing preparations for a fairly interesting African Economic Summit. You see, the North African country is pushing for a free trade area that includes the 3 main economic blocs on the continent: SADC, COMESA, and the East African Community. Egyptian businessmen have met government officials to prepare for the summit and to deliberate on how the country can benefit from a lot more regional integration with sub-Saharan Africa. Yasser Hakim has more.
The Egyptian business community is bracing for the tripartite African summit next month. African countries are developing at a fast pace, and Egypt plans to join the bandwagon.
African economies are being run in a highly professional manner. Take Ethiopia, for example. It had an average annual growth of 9% over the last 10 years. Tanzania, Rwanda and Uganda are improving considerably, as well as the quick growth rates and success stories from West Africa like Ghana and others.
Citing the huge potential in Africa, Egypt is now pushing for the merger of the 3 economic blocs into one free trade area. It would include 26 countries and a population of 625 million people. This is a huge open market for exports and trade, but the Egyptian government warned of resistance from SADC members to this merger.
One of the reasons this merger has been delayed for so long is South Africa. It fears competition from Egypt. South Africa is resisting and negotiating to exempt some products from the free trade agreement because it fears Egyptian competition.
Since Egypt joined COMESA, its exports jumped from $88 million to $2.4 billion. However, if the economic merger goes through, Egypt's exports will not automatically rise further. There are still issues to be resolved.
Africa has to be our priority, which means we have to improve the whole shipping and freight system, our warehouses and silos, our marketing strategies to Africa, and how to reach the African markets. There's still a lot to be done.
Whether the economic blocs agreed to unite or not in Sharm el-Sheikh, what experts here say is that the top priority should be for African countries to increase internal trade and investments to make optimum use of the potential in this continent. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
Commodity prices. Oil still does continue its yo-yo movement right across the charts. Of importance, however, what we're keen on is OPEC's meeting next week. Now, Reuters has a fairly interesting report. They're essentially citing unnamed sources in OPEC as saying that the meeting will probably take place amidst a much calmer environment. The market, according to OPEC, has readjusted itself to the current supply-demand balance, even though there's still a glut in the market. We're talking about big flightless birds shortly. Stay with Global Business Africa. Welcome back. Let's talk about ostriches. Enormous birds. They're known for several things. Obviously, their size and being unable to fly. In South Africa's Western Cape, however, they're helping the regional tourism sector, no pun intended, to take off. As Angelo Coppola reports, these enormous birds are right at the heart of a job-creating sector.
Raw ostrich meat is still not allowed to be exported into Europe, the US and Asia, but the ostrich is making a comeback as a tourist attraction.
So I would say that is the second biggest tourism attraction in our town. Obviously the Kango Caves is number one.
Foreign visitors are the mainstay of the ostrich tourism industry, but the African market penetration in this region is undeveloped. Continental visitors don't venture to this part of the country. Cape Town and Durban are the big draw cards still.
However, out here it is a minuscule contribution to the fleet that run through Highgate. You know, if we do 1,800 people a week in high season, then 2% of those might be Africans from Central and Northern Africa.
Visitors to this neck of the woods are traditionally from Western Europe, but the visitor profile has been changing.
So they still remain our core industry and our core business, but we are actively and excitingly growing our markets into the new emerging markets, which will be the Chinese and the Indian markets.
But it's not all plain sailing. The South African authorities seem to have unintentionally affected visitor flows. It's widely understood that visa application centres in the two main centres in India were badly understaffed, with dire consequences.
2 years ago it was the Indian market. Problem with that is we had 10,000 less Indian travellers to Oudtshoorn last year than the previous year, and this is 100% due to the visa scandal in India.
To add to this, the sector now waits to see what kind of impact the newly introduced Home Affairs rules on in-person visa applications and the need for full child traveller birth certificates will have. Hopefully the minister in charge will review his decision. But for now, it's about. The world's biggest bird here behind me, and it's the source and the nub and the center of an industry here in the Oudtshoorn area, and it's starting to revitalize itself. I'm Angelo Coppola for CCTV in Oudtshoorn.
That's the latest chapter in Africa's business story. Let's write a new one next week, Monday. See you then. I'm Ramanya.